Alright, peeps, I think we're live. I hope that we are. Please let me know if there's any kind of issue. I'm kind of doing this by the seat of my pants today, so give me a moment to sort of adjust things as I see fit. I literally just jumped out of the shower, too, so my hair is glistening with post. Forget it, we're not even going to go any further with that. Sometimes I know when to quit when I'm ahead. Yes, but please let me know if you can see and hear me before we go any further. We have sound and vision. Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, so for those of you who are new around these parts, and even for those who aren't, but who had a sudden blow to the head last night and possible concussion causing them to forget what's going on here, my name is Nick. This is Board Game Brawl, and this is our weekly Q&A. This is where I answer as many of your questions as I possibly can within a somewhat undetermined amount of time. I usually go over the hour it's supposed to be. But I answer your questions. It's obviously mostly going to be board gaming and card gaming related, but I'll answer any kind of question that you are curious about. Well, okay, I'm not answering any question, but ask me any question and we'll see what happens is the best thing I can tell you to do. I will show you midway through the stream some of the games that I have plans to do. I have 5 reviews I'm going to plan to get out between now and tomorrow night. You're going to see 2 reviews today, another installment of my Top 100 today, and then tomorrow you're going to see hopefully 3 reviews and another installment of my Top 100. I really want to get these done. Honestly, I would like to get the entire Top 100 done by next weekend, which is very fast, but that's fine. I don't see a reason to parcel them out over weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, because I don't have that much going on the channel, I think it's good to keep people involved. So, engaged, I guess is the better word. So, we're probably going to do that, and hopefully that'll be okay for you guys, and girls. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and get straight to the questions. I'm just going to scroll down and make sure nothing else is going on. Okay, looks like we're good to go for the moment. First question, Nick, if you could deliver one punch to anyone, who would it be? Let's see. There's quite a few people, honestly, but if I had to pick a person alive, I mean, obviously, I'd want to do that to Hitler, but Jeb Bush has that covered, so we're not going to worry about that. Who would it be? There's a lot of people from my childhood who probably deserve the punch. We'll leave it at that. Is there any beef between you and the Action Phase Games? It seems like you glossed over Kodama really quickly in your Kickstarter segment on Board Game Breakfast a few weeks ago. We have not gracefully, but for me, gratefully parted ways with our business relationship, which was me doing previews for their games. And I had a commitment to do the mention for Kodama on my Kickstarter update, so I did it. And that's that. The guys at the Dice Tower are always raving about games that they wish would come back in print. Are there any out-of-print games you've played that you'd like to see get a new release? Not really. You know, I always have said before that I've gotten pretty much all the Grail games I've been waiting for, both older Grail games like The Queen's Gambit and Space Hulk, and now newer ones like Kingdom Death Monster. People are calling that a Grail game because it is hard to get and it's such a long-waited game, but because I started so late in the board gaming hobby, I don't have a lot of long forgotten games that I'm just desperate to get. It would have been nice to have an official remake of Hero Quest, I guess, but even then, there are so many dungeon crawling games now that I don't see the purpose for that to exist other than for nostalgia. Why would you ever play Hero Quest over Descent if you had the option? I guess Descent is more complicated, but not by much. I don't know. So the point is, I don't think there's any games I can think of right now that I'm desperate to have back in print. I could kind of care less, I guess. I'm sure there's a few I can think of, but whatever. Actually, someone mentioned on my latest installment of the Top 10 that a couple of the expansions for Mansions of Madness are out of print. That's sad, because I never had time to get into those expansions, and now if I finally do sit down and play Mansions of Madness the way I want to and complete all the scenarios and go through some of the smaller expansions, if I find out I can't get the bigger expansions, I would be rather upset about that. Let's see. Do you think that we're starting to see classic Euro games on the decline? There are plenty of hybrid games coming out, but it seems like there aren't enough original pure Euros being made anymore. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. I think that there's always going to be Euro games. However, what I see happening is that there's less and less light to midweight Euros. Games like Settlers of Catan, I think Puerto Rico, I haven't played it, but it's probably on the heavier end. But, Settlers of Catan and even Ticket to Ride, you're seeing less and less of those types of games, I think, because those are more becoming like thematic games and hybrid games, like you said. People are really interested in those. But the people who are really into Euros, or the people who are really into producing Euro games for Euro players, are doubling down on the complexity. And that's why I think you're seeing games like Food Chain Magnate and the Gallerist and what's that other Kanban. I mean, you're seeing a lot, I believe, of those types of games that are really heavy Euro games. I think that's what's going on. I think that the people who are really into Euros and the people who want to cater to that audience are crystallizing and like really doubling down on that idea. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I mean, I'm not a heavy Euro gamer, as many of you know, so it's not really going to affect me very much, I guess. But who knows? Maybe this will improve the quality quite a bit if it is true that they're struggling for an audience. When does the price of a game consider to be too high for you? If it gets up to like $70, I pause. I'm like, okay. And I know that's silly because I spend way, way, way more than that on like multiple games during a month. So what would be the difference if I was to... sorry, I'm adjusting my camera again. What would be the difference if I was just to buy one game instead of like 3 games or 2 games? But it does make a difference. I mean, because I could get a ton of replay value and, really enjoy that one cheaper game as to what I would have paid for that really expensive game. It's just a riskier gamble. It depends. I mean, like, I would have bought the Gallerist, but at the time that the Gallerist first came out, it was really expensive. And I'm like, well, this is a really heavy Euro game, and I'm not sure I'm going to like it, so I'm going to have to stop and not go ahead with this. Also, Brass, the Deluxe Edition came out, and I'm like, I don't know. That's probably not going to be that great for me personally. Why should I double down on that? But it changes for everything. Obviously, I spent a lot. My Survivor level pledge for Kingdom Death was like $150. And now that seems like a steal, but I did have to think long and hard about it at the time. Do you ever play any old school VCR games, or would you? I have, well, when I was a kid, have I? I'm sure I played at least one of those when I was a kid. I probably would not now. I know people do it as a lark, just to have fun, and you can actually get like Nightmare and all those other types of games. You can find their video clips on YouTube, so it's not like you need a VCR anymore. But I don't know. I don't think that it's right for me. I have enough trouble having the time to play like legit awesome, potentially awesome games from our hobby without going back to old school ones. Excuse me. Do you sleeve your games, and what's your thoughts on sleeving in general? Not in general. There's a few games that get a ton of play in my group that I don't want to disintegrate, and I will sleeve those, like Seasons and Legendary. And Legendary had really crap cards, so those needed to be sleeved, but it was really expensive to do that, so I waited a long time. But Seasons had good card quality, but it got so much play in my group that I had to sleeve it. Another game that's getting into that territory might be Imperial Settlers. I might have to sleeve that because a lot of people play that game. That's an interesting one. I might have to get like different colored sleeves for all the factions. Oh no, you can't. No, yes you can. Yeah. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. But in general, I'm not in love with the idea of sleeving games, and I don't do it for a ton of my games, especially games like, let's say, Fantasy Flight games that have like a ton of smaller cards that are just there as placeholders. Like, you gain this equipment, put it in front of you. If it's not being shuffled or dealt out a lot, there's no point in my mind to sleeve them. But if it's a game that's like a deck building game or something, eventually I think it should be sleeved. Because I know the old adage is, well, for the amount of money it costs to sleeve it, you can just buy a new copy. Not always. Especially in the case of Legendary. Yeah, you can buy parts of Legendary for the same cost if it costs to sleeve it, but not everything. Hello, Nick. I was the one who recommended One Punch Man to you a while back. You are welcome. I didn't thank you. Just kidding. Thank you. Many people recommended it to me, but you may have been the first. I have another anime recommendation for you, The Seven Deadly Sins on Netflix. Get on it! I have heard of that. I will look into that. Also, can we have a sneak peek of your top 10 games of 2015? No. We're close enough now that you can just wait. I don't know when I'm going to put that up. It's always like a race to see who can do it first at the end of the year because no one wants to be the first one. Like, oh, you're doing it really early. But everyone wants to be the first one to put it out. We'll see what happens. Maybe within the next couple weeks you're going to see that. What are your thoughts on Nothing Personal? I don't think I've ever heard you mention it. Cheers. I probably have mentioned it. I played it one time at this point. Did I? 2, maybe? No. It was just 1, and I watched another game of it. I actually played like the first production copy with Vassal. I liked it. I thought it was fun. I won the game. That might be peppering my opinion of it. I did think it was very long. Although, again, that was my first game of it and several other people's first game of it. So, I don't know. I have heard that if you play it to a certain point value, it can be a little bit long. I don't know. I thought it was a decent game. I have to play it again. I do have a copy of it. One day, eventually, I will get to it, play it again at least one more time, and see if I still feel like it's a decent game, and I'll do a full review of it. But it's not something I'm rushing to do just because it's been out for a long time, and I have a lot of brand new games I have to get to. That's just the way it is. I notice you have now organized the models and figures on the top of your shelves. Not really. Could you give a quick rundown on who they are and from what series or game they are from? I haven't really organized them. They're just like, I need a place for these, so I threw them up there. But yes, and I haven't I'm an impulse buyer of these types of figures, so I don't make a concerted effort to do it. Otherwise, I'd make it look nicer. But I'm trying to look at the mirror and look behind me, and but okay, well, we'll see here. So yeah, you can't really see them clearly, but there's the Iron Giant. There are 2 Fallout figures. There's a female Vault Dweller and a Brotherhood of Steel dude in the power armor. There's a very old action figure of Gundam that I have that always falls apart, but I have kept it for some reason. Very old. It's 15, 16 years old. An Asuka figurine that I bought for myself because I was buying another Evangelion figurine for a friend for her birthday or just for the hell of it. I think I was trying to get in her pants, honestly. And the rest of them are all Magic the Gathering Funko figures. Just because I like those characters and I like the Funko figures. Now, if you watched my last installment of my Top 100, you saw other figures on the other side of my room, and those are Walking Dead figurines and Game of Thrones. It's really weird because there's a Tyrion figurine, and he's only a millimeter shorter than the other Funko Pop figures, because if they made him to scale, he'd be really small by Funko standards, so they couldn't do that. What else was there? Oh, there's also 2 Adventure Time ones, male and female Finn. Fiona and Finn. That's what her name is. She's not called Female Finn. You were right, Michael. Given that red is obviously better than blue, what color do you choose when blue isn't an option? Well, I mean, I know you're being sarcastic because you and I both know that blue is the ultimate color, but if blue is not an option, I'll go for green. I like green, and I like green, black, purple. The only colors I'm actively against, and I'm not even actively against red. That might be the next in line. I do not like yellow. I don't like brown or rust orange, which sounds specific, but I've seen a lot of games with that kind of orange. Those are the ones I don't like. I don't like gaudy colors, which, never mind. My core game group has not played Pandemic before, and I suck at it. Do you think it is necessary for them to play a regular Pandemic before Pandemic Legacy? No. Because, and here's the thing about that. If you really want to, you can play Pandemic Legacy as regular Pandemic before you start the Legacy part of it. It even has that in the rule book. If you're new to this game altogether, play a sample game without doing any of the Legacy stuff. Leave this pack of cards in the box. Just play a regular game of Pandemic, and you can do that. Okay, something's happening outside. But I would still say, even then, unless you're we gotta win, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Go right into it. Oh yeah, I should make someone a moderator. Who's going to be here for the whole thing? Someone tell me if you're going to be through the whole thing and I'll make you a moderator. I will go back and answer a question in the meantime. But thank you anyways, Lyrics. What are your thoughts on the expansion for Arcadia Quest Inferno? Or, okay, do you mean what are my thoughts on Inferno? Or on some of the expansion packs in it? I think Inferno looks amazing. I mean, it's more Arcadia Quest, which is great, and there's a couple of new things in the base box, like Angels, which I think is really interesting because they can be corrupted, or you can try and save them, and they'll help you. Otherwise, they're going to come back and be nasty and fight you, something like that. I love the Pets box, although it's a blatant ripoff of Super Dungeon Explorer. But okay, fine. I mean, blatant ripoff. In Forgotten King and in the last one, the new Kickstarter they just ran, they had pets and pets and pets and more pets integrated right into the game. And it's a shame that they had to not only rip it off, but also make you buy it separately. Super Dungeon Explorer seems to be doing that a little bit better, but I'm still excited for it. And then there's the dragon. That looks really cool. So there was a lot of cool stuff in that campaign. I can't deny it. Still no one has volunteered to be a moderator. Curse you all. But it looks like we don't have any problems anyways. Why is Kailu in the thumbnail? Because I'm obsessed with Kailu. Oh boy, I should probably... I'm not really obsessed for Kailu, for anyone who has no idea what we're talking about. Since you probably will never do an actual video, what are your thoughts on Guardians Chronicles after Wave 2? I would like to do an actual video of the expansions. I planned on it, but it just keeps getting pushed further and further down the queue. I have all the expansions, and there's going to be the new, like... set series number 2 that they're doing. They did a weird... That whole campaign was kind of a cluster F. I should probably curse, but whatever. Where the models were all messed up, so they had to reprint all of those. The project as a whole was super late. And then finally they were like, hey, we've got these other expansions we still need to ship to you, but we were thinking of just making another base game. Would that be cool with you guys? And everyone was like, I guess. Yeah, as long as we're getting it. So now that's happening, and that's taking longer. It was a weird campaign. All right, Chris, you're a moderator. Thank you. If you see any shenanigans, use extreme prejudice and just destroy them. I have no problems with that. If they blink at you wrong, somehow, destroy them. Joe was underwhelmed by the main store of cool stuff down in Maitland. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a store. I mean, honestly, I think the store down in Hollywood actually looks a little bit better. But the cool part was the warehouse. But if you didn't get a chance to go into the warehouse, maybe I should have mentioned that to you. I had a chance to go into the warehouse, so that was why I thought it was cool. I got a tour by contacting them ahead of time. And I don't know if that was just because of my bona fides or not. So I wouldn't say that you can all ask for a tour, but... I might have been throwing my reviewer weight around. What's the best gaming store you've been to, though? I still think that Tate's Gaming Satellite, which is also down here in South Florida. So there's... Tate's, I guess, has a reputation around the country, but there's Tate's Comics, which is what actually has the reputation. And they're a huge comic book store. They have tons of memorabilia, collectibles, manga, statues... Tons of stuff, and they have events there all the time. They have celebrities come up from the comic book world, celebrities, things like that, right? They have huge sales, like they have a big festival there for like flea market type sale every year. And then they have right next door to them is what they call the Gaming Satellite. Now I haven't been there in a while, and I don't know if they've expanded it, but on its own it's pretty cool. Lots of miniatures. They did have a decent board game selection, but it was all like MSRP and only like the most popular stuff, and tons of Munchkin. And lots of role-playing game stuff. And they had tables to play at. But the time I was there, it was pretty cramped. But I still thought that it was a great idea. And it's good that it's in such close proximity to a really cool comic book store. And, also, Tate's has, like, an indie art gallery called, the Bear and Bee or the Bird and Bee or something. That's really cool as well. So I think, all in all, if they could expand, or if they have expanded the Gaming Satellite, that would be an awesome space to play. So you're not competing with space with the Magic players. How tall are you? I think I am exactly 6 foot. If not, I'm like 5'11". Look up, keep talking and nobody explodes. You don't pay attention to my Facebook. A friend of mine, actually, who had moved away, so to speak. He moved 90 minutes south down to Miami. He used to be a regular member of our group and hasn't been able to come up in a while because he's teaching down in Miami. Or he's finishing up his graduate degree to become a music teacher. He came to the group for the day before Thanksgiving because he had the time with his friend, and he said, let's play Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. So we tried it. And for those of you who don't know, you can look it up. Just Google it because it's got some other different type of web address. So what happens is one player uses either their tablet or a laptop or whatever to be... You're all working cooperatively together to defuse a bomb. And I guess the theory is that the bomb was put together by really stupid terrorists. So the bomb itself, one person is in charge of inputting the stuff into the bomb to try to disarm it, like cutting wires and clicking buttons and things like that. And every time that you play the game, there's like a timer. Depending on the number of players, the timer is like, I don't know, a few minutes to like 8 minutes, something like that. And there's randomized components of the bomb. So there might be a keypad code you have to put in with like symbols like lambdas and hieroglyphics and things like that. There might be cutting wires. There might be inputting like Morse code section. All kinds of this random stuff. The other players have to have a packet of paper with all of these different tests in it. And so the person who's in charge of the bomb will say, okay, timer started. Okay, Nick, I'm going to need you on simple wires. And Matt, I'm going to need you on Morse code. So you got those coming up. But for right now, I need you on keypad and things like that. And so then you have to follow this list of things. And it's like a bookkeeping exercise. And I found it very interesting. I don't know that I would ever play it with any kind of regularity because... I don't know. For me, like, we only had two booklets, and 3 of us wanted to play to help out the bomb diffuser. So, like, I had to play on my laptop, just looking through the PDF for all of these different commands, and that was frustrating because I'm like, okay, wait, where's keypad? Okay. And then it's very difficult unless you sit down with the group ahead of time and go through every single test and explain what they are. It's very difficult to just glean that from the rules as you're playing. Look it up, experience it for yourself. It is definitely something you should try, and I can understand that it's one of those like college party games that probably is going to get a lot of buzz as the years go on, like Two Rooms and a Boom. Same premise too. Did you trade away Mage Knight? It is a deck builder. Are you going to give it another chance? I did not trade away Mage Knight. It's on my shelf. You can see it in my last installment of the Top 100. And it is a deck builder in only the loosest sense. I would warn people against that. There is deck building in the game the same way there is deck building in City of Iron. That's not really the main focus of the game. Okay. There's a lot more deck building in Mage Knight than, say, City of Iron, but I have not. In fact, I traded away Mage Knight originally and traded back for another copy. That's something to note. So I still want to get into that game because I know it should be my type of game. What are your top 3 comedians excluding Bill Cosby? Well, I would like you to know that even before he became a monster, or that we found out he was a monster the whole time, I did not like Bill Cosby very much. I always thought that he was like way too preachy, like taking out all of his anger on other black comedians, or just black people in general, and like, you see, with all this rap music, and you gotta pull up your pants and get a job. And I was like, you know what? They don't need to hear that from you. So, just because you got the golden ticket and were incredibly lucky in life, why don't you do something constructive, like figuring out why people, there's high rates of whatever it is, unemployment, drug abuse, incarceration among black people. Maybe it's not just because they're not trying hard enough. Anyways, that whole thing, aside from the rape that we've discovered, that whole thing put me off from Bill Cosby years ago, and now especially so. But as far as comedians, I actually discovered the Comedy Channel on Pandora, which is great. They just play random tracks off of comedy albums. I have forgotten how much I love Chris Rock. Oh my God. Chris Rock is good. I hadn't really listened to Kevin Hart. He's amazing. I like... who else do I like? Jim Gaffigan's good. I like him quite a bit. I don't know if I could pick top 3, though. I'd have to really think about that. But Chris Rock, if he's not in my top 3, definitely top 5. I mean, he's amazing. Your thoughts on Secret Hitler, which is doing very well on Kickstarter? I really hope it's good. I don't know that I didn't really desire another game like The Resistance or Werewolf, but if it's better than those two games, I'll gleefully play it. To me, like Spyfall is going to replace those types of games, but I'm still excited about it. I'd love to try it, but I'm probably not going to try the print and play of it. I'm probably just going to pledge for it anyways, just to get the pack for Cards Against Humanity, which I played again for the first time in like a year. Not a year, but it's definitely been a while since I played Cards, and I played it again on Wednesday with the guys who came up from Miami, and I have never laughed so hard in my life. It was just a perfect confluence of things. There were some cards that the music teacher put in that was just like, oh my god, I was laughing so hard it was embarrassing. I was spitting on the table, I was getting a headache, I was crying, I was laughing so hard. I really needed that though. What are your are you excited about Deception Murder in Hong Kong? Yes, I am. I should be getting a review copy of that. I just don't know when. I was told that about over a month ago, but they said it would be like December. So I'm not sure when, but as soon as I can, I'm going to play it. I'm really quite excited about it. I've heard it's a Mysterium killer. We shall see. I don't know that Mysterium needs to be killed, but it's always funny when people say that. This game kills this other game. And I'm like, well, can I not like them both? What are your 3 top Kickstarter projects you wish you had supported but didn't? I know Arcadia Quest is one because of those exclusives. Hold on. Oh, well, actually, I actually did support Arcadia Quest. It's just that I didn't pledge for every exclusive optional add-on, so I regret that I'm missing like 2 or 3 figures. But other than that, I got a lot of the Arcadia Quest stuff, so that's not a regret for me. What is a regret is that I had to get the retail version of this. And I know that there's people who spend a lot of money on tracking down the whole Kickstarter version of this, but I just wasn't willing to do that because it was a lot of money by the time I got around to it. And by the way, I say I regret it now. I might not like the game. I have no idea yet. But I do wish I had all the extra Kickstarter stuff. I regret that I didn't back Fallen when it was on Kickstarter because I thought that was a decent game. But then I was like, you know what? This game is so crippled by not having those extra adventure packs that I'm not sure I want to support the company in that kind of practice. So screw it. And then I even got rid of my retail copy of Fallen. I would have regretted not backing Above and Below, but then I ended up getting a Kickstarter version of that game for like $60 anyways. It wasn't a huge deal. And as it turns out, there wasn't anything amazing about that. Well, I guess there's a few things, but not a huge deal. That's a blast from the past. Duo Maxwell. Why do you think Japanese culture has very bizarre fetishes, i.e. hentai, vending machines with used panties, bizarre by Western standards? I would encourage you to go to Cracked. Now, Cracked is it can be hypocritical at times, a lot of the time. So they've done articles about the weird things that Japanese and other Asian cultures do, but they've also put out an article saying, you know what, we kind of overblow that, and there's this perception that maybe is not necessarily true. And I do think that sometimes. Like, for instance, while there are those vending machines, I think they're very, very rare, and I think they're in very specific places. And I think that if you look hard enough in the U.S., you'll find really weird stuff like that, too, if you go to, like, porn stores and if you go to red light districts and things like that. And as far as the whole hentai thing, and I am getting really sick of people making the tentacle joke. Like, I listened to The Secret Cabal the other day, and someone just mentioned a Japanese game, and someone was like, does it got tentacle porn or tentacle rape in it? And I'm like, you know, I understand that is a thing, for sure. It's for real. But there's also a lot of really creepy and disturbing American, like, live-action porn. But because that exists, do you indict the entire film industry? Like, for once, I would like to say, oh, I really enjoy anime, and have someone not say something creepy like that. Like, oh, like tentacle porn, I'm like, well, no, that's actually a part of anime that you can watch if you want, and I guess it's technically anime, but there's this whole other wide world of stuff that's like, you know, from G-rated to R-rated that is not creepy and disturbing, and I just don't know about having that stereotype apply across the board, especially when you're applying that stereotype to Japanese culture in general, not just anime in general. I just think every culture has really weird, bizarre fetishes and stuff. And I think the reason we focus on Japan is just because they're foreigners and they sort of flout that. But I mean, the reason why you don't hear about that coming from like Middle Eastern countries is because of the opposite reason. They're so constricted and won't allow you to do anything, weirdly sexual whatsoever, or even just have alternate lifestyle choices. And other countries are more like us, like Britain and France, so they share our weird fetishes. It's just that the Japanese and other Asian cultures still seem very strange and foreign to us. We haven't quite ground out of that, so it's a very excessively long answer for your question, but I have been thinking about that lately. What are your thoughts on Exceed, the fighting game from Level 99? The anime art is sweet. It's funded, but not very well. I thought it looked very cool. I like Level 99. Some of their games made it onto my top 100 list. You can wait and see. I think so. I think there's a couple things going on there. First, I think that there's perhaps a bit of fatigue for these types of games, especially from Level 99. Level 99 has made it their mission statement to, for the most part, to make these two-player fighting card games. The anomaly there was Argent the Consortium, which is a fantastic game. But I don't think that it perhaps sold as well or got as much buzz as they were hoping for. And I haven't seen them really doing anything else with games that break that two-player fighting game mold. So they're really doubling down on that. Whether it's like BattleCon or Exceed or even games that function very differently like Pixel Tactics and Cell Swords, they're all two-player head-to-head combative games. And I think that people are getting burned out on that because they also have competition, because then there's Yomi, and I think there's other fighting type games from other companies that kind of do the same thing. Cheap Ass Games revived one of their really terrible looking games that do that, something like that. So as good as Exceed looks, even I said it in my Kickstarter update, I'm like, yeah, this game looks pretty fun. It looks like it kind of scratches the same itch as Yomi, but I don't know. Omi was from Shaolin Showdown. I think it looks good. I just think that maybe that audience has bought into that enough and perhaps weren't looking for something so samey. That's my theory anyways. Who are your top 3 favorite rappers of all time? I like Drake. I like Eminem. I like Chance the Rapper is really good. These are like, except for Eminem, I'm more into like modern indie hip-hop rap. I like Sage Francis. I like a lot of indie rappers who are sort of skirting the boundaries of rap. Like I like the band Y with a question mark. They're really good. And they do some rap-ish type stuff. Tough to say though. But yeah, stuff like that. I like stuff that sort of breaks out of the boundaries. I'm not into just like the stuff you hear on Top 40 radio for any kind of music, especially rap though. I have to read this entire comment before I say something stupid. Trump has alluded to registering Muslims and tweeting out wrong facts like 81% of all homicides of Caucasians are perpetrated by blacks. Your thoughts? Well, I think there's no point in me holding back my thoughts, or anyone holding back their thoughts on this anymore. Trump is a monster. He's a monstrous person. I'm not even sure that he believes most of what he says, but the fact that he's willing to say it and incite the ignorant masses of people who do believe it means that he is committing monstrous acts by doing this. And I'm sure that he's going to lose. There was just a Reuters poll that came out yesterday or going into today that he has lost support among like 12% of Republicans, not amongst the general populace and independents, Republicans. And that's a bad sign for him. So he is not going to be president, and I doubt that he's even going to be the nominee. But the fact that he's still out there saying that thing and enraging these people even more, these people who are already ignorant and unstable, it's horrific. It's horrific. And I think that, I understand this is a board gaming channel, but I think that if you feel the same way as I do, you need to speak up about it, because there's not enough people who are speaking up about it, and we're letting him and all of his supporters get away with saying this nonsense and changing the narrative. Can't let that happen. These are ignorant things. He is a bigot, he is a racist, and he's inciting other bigots and racists, and that's bad for society. Moving on. Guardians Chronicles is a decent game, but Yellow doesn't seem to be hyping it up. Why? Possibly due to the minor slight Kickstarter missteps. Slight! What? What do you think is a major misstep? No, okay. Yeah, people were probably a little bit too harsh on them, but they had some major problems with that campaign and their communication of it. And they're not hyping it up because it didn't sell very well. And they should have been doing it from the start, but I think that they really messed that up by releasing it too soon, releasing essentially an unfinished game with unfinished rules, and that really hurt them. And because the copy of the game that came out initially was not in its top form, I think they were slightly ashamed of it. But I'm sorry about that because it is a good game and I wish things were different. Your thoughts on Submerge expansion? I don't know about Submerge or an expansion. I don't know what that is. I've heard of a game called Submerge, but I didn't know there was an expansion for it. I never played the base game. Huh. I noticed you never review games from small box games like Hemlock, Omen, Hordes of Grimoire, Soulfall, an upcoming game called Keep. Are you not into small two-player games? Hard to hit the table? Is Small Box Games is a company, right? Yeah, that is a company. I have heard of a couple of those games like Hemlock and Soulfall. I don't know. They don't send me review copies, and I never backed them. At this point, I have so many games of either games that I've purchased or games that have been sent to me that I cannot go outside of the box too much. There's just too many new hot stuff that I am immediately interested in that I have to focus on. And yes, it is hard for two-player games to hit the table, but not impossible. And if I thought that they were amazing, if they had a lot of buzz, I would be talking about them, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But I'm not against it. I don't know enough about them. Now that capitalism has proven very flawed, when will socialism make a comeback? Take a look at social media and see what people think about socialism. Even Democrats, I think that's an uphill battle, but maybe in another 10 years. Will you do a top 10 worker placement? Maybe. I do like worker placement a lot. I have to make sure that there's enough. I know I've played like way more than 10 worker placement games, but I'm not sure that I've played 10 of them that I'd be comfortable putting on a list of my favorites. I'm afraid at this point I might do like, my number 10 is this game, and it's alright, I guess. It's not terrible. I want 10 games. Whenever I do a top 10 list, I want 10 games I think are amazing. Favorite comic book storyline? Give me a minute. I really like the Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War storylines. Do you see Arcadia Quest Inferno as an expansion to Arcadia Quest or a replacement? I might end up with both soon and don't know if that's just too much of the same thing. They're both. I mean, I think that you could probably start off with Inferno and just be like, oh, okay, I really like this, but I'm good. Or be like, hey, I really love this game. Let me go get the other one so that I have more campaign maps to go through and more miniatures. That would be the thing. So I think they could expand each other. The thing was, if you started off with Arcadia Quest and weren't able to get the exclusive minis and stuff, our Inferno might be an even better buy for you. But you know, I think their intention is for it to be an expansion. They're just making it standalone. What themes do you feel should be taboo, off limits in board games? Gun running, human trafficking, murdering guests while they sleep, rape, slave trade, assassinating presidents. This was interesting because one time I stuck my foot in my mouth in a big way when I put a post up saying that a theme was inappropriate. It was for a game called Battle Merchants. And I'm like, oh, great. So you're taking my beloved fantasy theme and making us into essentially dogs of war, selling weapons. I mean, the gun runners essentially, but in a fantasy world. And I felt stupid about it afterwards. I'm like, who cares? And I don't think that there's any subject that should be completely off limits and taboo as long as it's handled in a tasteful way. Now, I know that people are upset about Secret Hitler, speaking of that, because it's like, well, that means that some players play as Hitler. Yeah, but the point is for the other players to root out and eliminate Hitler, and they make them look like reptiles, which I'm kind of against. I'm kind of against the demonizing of reptiles, lizards, and snakes, but okay, fine. They make Hitler and his agents look like reptiles to clearly set them apart from humanity. And so I think you could do a thing on gun running if like it was a good team versus a bad team, because don't we do that all the time anyways, where you have like Axis and allies and it's the bad guys versus the good guys? You're not like taking on their persona, you're just playing as them. I don't know if that's weird, but and again, like human trafficking, if it was a cooperative game to stop human trafficking, if it was handled very tastefully, I mean, we do have what's it called? Oh man, why am I blanking on the name of it? The game from Academy Games with I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of this game. The game with the Underground Railroad. Freedom, the Underground Railroad. That's what it was called. That game was great. It was a good game, mechanically speaking, and it handled the theme very tastefully. You can do that, and like assassinating the president, working cooperatively together. That's the thing, is that a lot of these games would have to be cooperative, because if it was, we're all gun runners, it might be a little bit darker. If we're all murdering and raping people, that's bad. But I think that if the game is clearly marked for mature audiences and it's handled in a tasteful way, I don't think things should be off limits. I am getting tired of the sensitivity of people. In some cases, sometimes people have the right to be sensitive when things are being handled in a tasteless way, but I think there's a way to do it and to still have like a very fulfilling and thematic experience. And sometimes these things should be talked about. Why don't you like Scott Alms' games like Tiny Epic Everything? LOL. Well, I actually didn't mind Defenders that much. I thought it was a decent game. I just don't like tiny games that are purposely made tiny. I don't like the whole marketing campaign of that company. I thought it's very weird, and I personally just think that Scott Alms is like everything I've played from him, not just those games. I've played a couple of those, Tiny Epic, Defenders and Kingdoms, but I've also played Harbor. I might have even played another one from him, some small box game. It seems like I have, probably, because he puts out a lot of stuff. But that's the problem. I think that all the games I've played from him they're games, they work, but they're completely mediocre. And I worry that the reason why he's so popular, the reason why he's so prolific and making so much money on Kickstarter with the games that he produces for various companies, is because they're cheap, they have good artwork, and they work. They're not abjectly terrible. Like, he's a good enough designer to make them not awful by mimicking other people's designs. But I think that I don't know. I don't think he's the real deal. I think that I would rather buy one game from Eric Lang than get 20 Scott Alms games for free. Because I know that I'm going to have a better experience, or not even just from Eric Lang, from any number of designers, Antoine Bauza and Regis Bonasse. I mean, just so many other better, Mike Elliott. There's so many other better designers, and Eric Lang is having a renaissance, but there's so many other designers who I feel just kind of don't get the respect, and we're giving all this attention to the tiny epic games from Scott Alms. That's my problem in general. He has every right to make his games, and I'm not coming down on him. He seems like a really nice guy, but I want to promote amazing games, not just games, and that's what they feel like. And I would say that that's one of the biggest problems with Kickstarter. The problem with Kickstarter isn't garbage games. Garbage games are easily filtered out. Nobody supports them. Nobody backs them. They're ignored. Fine. Nobody talks about them. Whatever. It's just a consequence of having a game system. There's bad published garbage games all the time too, but they don't hurt the industry as a whole. Mediocre games and their proliferation are going to hurt the industry as a whole. Mark my words. What is your favorite holiday? Christmas. I'm not a Christian. I have no religious affiliation with the holiday whatsoever, but I love the season. I love the lights. I love the giving. I just love the attitude around Christmas time. When you looked at some of the sites that had Black Friday sales, what was your opinion on some of the offerings that were available? Not that great. I didn't see a lot of interesting things. I was keeping an eye on all of Amazon's lightning deals and got like a pair of slippers that I wanted. That's the only thing I got. I was looking for video equipment, which they've had in previous years, but they didn't have any this year. It seemed really mediocre across the board. Although I know they have these sales going on through Christmas, so maybe there'll be better stuff. Cool stuff. Didn't have anything I was interested in, but then again, I have tons of board games already, so if someone didn't have a lot of games and was looking at their sale, I think they'd find some good stuff there, especially if they were in like X-Wing or Armada. Miniatures market seemed really disappointing. I don't know. I was pretty less than thrilled with Black Friday sales. Oh, I don't know. They're probably not doing it anymore, but by random chance, I got an email from Artipia, like their newsletter, and you could have gotten the game Lightspeed for like €11 with shipping worldwide. So I bought that for Black Friday. I don't think they have it going on anymore, but you could check. Does your dog have a favorite toy, and what is it? Her blankie. She has 2 blankies. Her big blankie, which used to be like an actual blanket for humans, but she destroyed it. So I'm like, okay, just take it. And then a dog blankie, and she loves those things. She lays on them and puts it in her mouth and lays there with it. She plays tugs of war with it. That's her favorite thing. She can't have regular toys because she obliterates them, like stuffed animals and squeaky toys. She will rip the squeaky out and chew it to pieces and sometimes try to swallow it bit by bit, so I can't let her do that. So she can't have those. But those blankets and even like rope toys she tears apart. She doesn't know how to have nice things. What's your view of reviewers making reviews that have spoilers about some of the more recent games? Do you mean like Time Stories and Pandemic Legacy? That's bad if they're marked as such. I did a non-spoiler review of Time Stories and Pandemic Legacy, but then I did a spoiler review of the story from Time Stories, Asylum, and its follow-up, the Marcy case, and I clearly marked it as such and said, I just want to talk about this, and hopefully there's some other people that want to talk about it too, who have been dying to, but have to keep following the spoilers rules. So that's what I made that video for. But if they're just doing it as like in the middle of something else, and they're like they spoil something completely, I'm like, that's not cool. You need to mark it as such in as many ways as possible. Say it in the headline. Say it when you start the video. I don't know. That's my opinion. How many people are watching? I'm curious. 46. That's not bad by my standards. What's your favorite secret role deduction game? Spyfall, Resistance, Coup, Werewolf. It's funny though he spelled Coup as Coop. Werewolf, Mafia, Batstar, Murder in Hong Kong, Two Rooms and a Boom. I love the Resistance. I love Spyfall. I'm not a huge fan of Coup or Werewolf or Mafia. I like Battlestar a lot, but it's hard to hit the table. Murder in Hong Kong I haven't played. Two Rooms and a Boom, not a huge fan of. So I'm going to say Spyfall and the Resistance of that list are the best. In your current top 100 list for the ones you have revealed, were there any major games that rose or fell more than you expected? Yeah, you have yet to see that yet. You'll be surprised when we get higher up in the list. For now, we're just kind of going through some of the older ones that have moved around. I can't really say much more than that. We've only gone through 30 entries. I don't think there's been any huge surprises yet. That's coming, though. Your thoughts on the Kickstarter project Pillars of Eternity, Lords of the Eastern Reach? I don't know anything about it. I'll take a quick look because you've got my curiosity piqued. If I could even type. Here we go. Oh, this is old. Which one was this? I vaguely knew this. Wasn't this based off of a video game? Why did I decide not to talk about this? I guess I just wasn't that interested in it. I don't know. Looks alright. Feels like there's a lot of games like that nowadays. You mentioned you like the Mountain Goats. Have you checked out John Worster, the drummer's comedy work? I have no idea he had comedy work. All I know is John Darnell. I love the Mountain Goats, though. I'll check it out. Do you predict a board game drought next year? Seems like the last 2 years have been awesome and we can't continue at this pace. I wonder about that, too. I don't think it's going to be like a bubble bursting type thing, but I would not be shocked to see the landscape sort of evening out. Seeing a lot of imitations of games that have already been released, a lot of sequels and things, but yeah, I'm curious about that. I don't know that they can keep up this pace, but I'll be very happy if they do. If you could go out on a date with any celebrity, who would she be? She's still young enough that I'll feel like a dirty old man, but sorry, I'm just blanking out on names today. I'm still in like kind of post-sleep fog. I had a weird night sleeping last night. I went into bed just to rest my eyes at like 11 o'clock last night. I'm like, all right, I gotta get up and do some more stuff. The next thing I know, it's like 5 a.m. Yeah, I was right the first time in my head. Emma Watson. Yeah. I mean, she's yeah, I do feel like a dirty old man about that, but I think that she's 25. That's not a big deal. But she's gorgeous. She's smart. She's a feminist. I mean, she's amazing. I'm sure I could have a good conversation with her. Yeah, for sure. If you were to have a 24-hour gaming marathon, what games would you include in it? Of course, Love Letter would be in the mix, but tell us the big games. Well, not necessarily. Yeah, it probably would be. I'd like to finally get... Well, okay. I want to go with games. Let's assume that it's one I don't care about doing, like review games or anything like that. I would go with stuff that I love already that's hard to get to the table. Mansions of Madness, Battlestar Galactica, Forbidden Star instead of Winter. I'm just looking at my shelf. Just like longer games that I can't always get to the table. City of Iron, just marathon some legacy game, something like that. The thumbprint for this one is thumbnail is One Punch Man. Have you seen it? I'm loving it. Yes, I'm now watching it week by week, and it's amazing. It's such a great show. They landed it on a cliffhanger. I think the new episode's coming out tomorrow. I can't wait. Oh my gosh, I hope it's coming out tomorrow. Should come out today. If you were spontaneously given $500,000 by some random guy whom you've never met before, what would you do with the money? I would buy a house out of state. I'd move out of state, buy a house. A modest house that doesn't have a lot of upkeep or property taxes so that I could, maintain my current lifestyle and continue to live in it, and furnish it and get new equipment for the channel and get another dog and get some nice stuff for my dog, and that'd be about it. I'm a very easy man. It's simple, unambitious. So now that you've played all the KennerSpiel noms, who should have won? Have I played all the KennerSpiel noms for this past year? I don't know that I have. But if you're saying that I have, then maybe I have. Let's see. Yeah, what were the choices this past year? It was... Oh, I can't understand their website. You guys suck. Connoisseur Game of the Year. Yeah, okay. Broom Service, Elysium, and Orleans. Yeah, it's been a while since I played all three of those together. Broom Service was the only outlier that I hadn't played up until the point that it got a wide release. And what is my favorite of the three? Is that your question? Who knows? Who should have won? The problem is, I need to play Orleans again. It's been a while since I played Orleans, and now I got the big fancy deluxe edition, which isn't really going to affect my opinion. But it's been a while, long enough that I need to play it again. I still love Elysium. It's so good. But I wouldn't be surprised if Orleans overtakes it. It's not Broom Service. I like Broom Service a lot. I was in my 101 to 110 for my top 100 this year. But it's not in the running. It's good though. But Elysium or Orleans is where it's at. And Orleans is probably a better game, but Elysium is simpler, faster, better artwork. So I don't know if it's superficial reasons that are leading me towards Elysium or not. We'll have to see. Maybe I'll I don't know. Ask me again. I don't know this worth doing a video for. How much do you enjoy asymmetric games? What's the most asymmetric game you've played? I really enjoy asymmetric games. I think it's a great idea to have games that have things functioning differently. I think the most asymmetric game I've played is Netrunner, the new version of Netrunner, which is completely different for both sides, other than we get some actions to do. But other than that, it's way different. So that's probably the most asymmetric, good game that I've played. But I really love games that have maybe slightly less asymmetric aspects, like Chaos in the Old World. So in Chaos in the Old World, you're doing the same types of things, putting out tokens to do area control, but the way that you get your tokens, your strategies, and how you go about doing all these different things is way different. So I really appreciate that as well. I like asymmetry in games. I think it's a great idea. I hope you're not shopped out, Nick. No, I did no shopping whatsoever. I couldn't care less about it. Have you checked out Shuffle Heroes? I have not. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get through the list, otherwise I'd look it up right now. But is that another game like Smash Up? Actually, that sounds familiar to me. Were there games that completely dropped from your top 100 or 110 that we haven't heard about yet? Yes, for sure. I'm not going to say what they are, just to keep people in suspense for the rest of the list. But I always, just like last year, I'm going to do a sort of closing video just to cap it out and tell you some stats, and I will talk about that. So make sure to watch that. I think it'll be really interesting. And I'm back to where we started. What makes for a good Euro? A good Euro has to have very smooth mechanisms. It all needs to make sense. It doesn't need to be necessarily thematic. If it has theme, fantastic. But as we all know, a lot of Euros don't have a very strong theme. But that's okay. As long as the mechanisms are strong, as long as they are smooth, as long as there's not a lot of like stupid fiddliness, as long as like if I move this moves makes sense to me, I'm okay with that. I think Stefan Feld games have a lot of that, and that's why I like them. Nathaniel, you would have been a good moderator. I'm sorry, I didn't choose to. Here, I'll make you a moderator honorary. I just picked the first person who said they were going to be here for the whole time. There you go. You're a moderator. Because you are here all the time, Nathaniel. So if Shadows of Brimstone is so much of an RPG in a box, why get rid of even the base game? Well, because for me, I felt like the majority of there were parts of the game that were an RPG in a box, right? Going to town and having little adventures and experiences like that. But the bulk of the game was we go down through this dungeon and we kill some monsters. And to me, I felt like other RPG in a box like games like Descent did that better. As far as like a campaign type setting and scenario. Easier to set up. Not as many, you didn't have to put any miniatures together for Descent. So if I wanted to keep getting expansions, I knew it wasn't going to be like a chore every time. And now Super Dungeon Explorer is going to have that too. And Arcadia Quest has a campaign mode, although it's competitive. And Super Fantasy is a lighter version of these types of games. My point was there was a lot of different options, and I didn't feel like holding on to that huge box that wasn't going to get played that much was worth it for me. But it's a good game. I can't say that it's not. I just didn't want to commit to it. I didn't want to say, okay, now I'm going to go buy the Swamps of Death one, a huge other big box. Or, no, which one did I have? I had Swamps of Death. I didn't have City of Ancients. So I'm like, I don't want to go buy City of Ancients now. I don't want to buy the Caverns of Cinder. And there's so many other small expansions coming out. I said, I have to either decide to keep going with this or stop. And I decided to stop. To be fair, I'm getting to that point with other games like Dice Masters too. In my board gaming group, is my board gaming group the only ones that think it's weird that Fantasy Flight Games haven't announced any form of expansion for Forbidden Stars? No, that hasn't been being talked about much. It is a bit odd. I'm pretty sure the game sold very well. I imagine that it did, although I don't have sales numbers in front of me. It is weird that they haven't done that. And I don't know what the logic is there. I don't know. I don't know why they'd be holding off on that. They should have at least announced it. I don't know. But they do have a full schedule. Maybe that's the only reason. They have new expansion for Eldritch Horror coming out. They're really hitting that hard. That game must be selling like hotcakes for them. Enough that it's probably killed Arkham Horror, I have to imagine. They haven't announced... They announced... Star Wars. That's a part of it too. Star Wars is taking up so much of their bandwidth. I don't know, but I don't think the game has been abandoned, but it just might not be on their forefront right now. Because it does cater to a very specific audience. How far into Pandemic Legacy are you since your review? I'm only like halfway. I think, where were we? We kept playing it a little bit while after our review, so I think we got up to like May or something. I don't know. Not far enough. Don't say anything about it because I'm not even sure about that and I don't want to get spoiled. Yeah, we do need to finish it. But I did say in my review, we're not done yet. I'll probably do another review, capping it off. And at this point, I don't even know if I'm going to do that. Arcadia Quest Pets. Dumb? Not dumb. I just felt like they're kind of a ripoff of Super Dungeon Explorer. And I wish they were integrated into the base game like Super Dungeon Explorers are. Did you end up buying in the Draw Fleet Commander? No, I can't really buy into another miniatures game when I still have Relic Knights sitting in a box in my room. Ordered my own birthday gift. I do that all the time. Time Stories. Woot woot. Good choice, Rhonda. Amazing choice, Rhonda. Go ahead and just get the expansion with it, too. I know you don't like Carcassonne, me neither, but enjoy Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Have you tried Isle of Skye? I have, and I have a copy of it. I played someone else's copy, though, first. And, well, I bought my copy based on nothing other than I heard a lot of buzz about it. Then I played someone else's copy. I like it. I worry that there's some runaway leader snowballing type things in that game, but I liked it. I certainly liked it more than Carcassonne. I will need to play it again at least one more time. How much wood, etc. Go ask your mom. I don't know. I was trying to say something funny. It didn't really work. Nick, do you ever explore RPGs? Have you tried Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG? I have. I did a review of Edge of the Empire. Believe it or not, I did, and it's one of my most popular videos. It's not a very good review, but check it out anyways. You might find this interesting. It was a long time ago, pre-new camera. Nick, have you heard of the Kickstarter Role Player? Will you be doing a review? No, I wouldn't do a review anyways. I would do a preview if they had asked me. But I see that they already have a lot of support from other reviewers, so they don't need me. Did it fund? It's 24,000 out of 35,000. They have 12 days to go. It'll probably fund. That's a shame. I don't know. At this point, I'm like, if it limps along to the finish line, it's probably not a very good game. Okay. So this Brass Deluxe thing is going crazy. Is Martin Wallace poison at this point? You know, I'm kind of out of the loop on that controversy, although I knew a few months ago that something was going on there. I'll have to look into that again. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. Like, apparently Eagle Griffin did not have official permission from Martin Wallace to do this stuff, and Eagle Griffin's like, dude, screw you. You made an agreement with us, and we're sticking to it. And yeah, Martin Wallace just loves courting controversy. He's kind of like the Nick Minahan of board game designers. No, hopefully I'm not that bad. But yeah, he does seem to like to just make public spectacles. And I was kind of on his side. My thing is that I am always automatically on the side of talent. I know that these are small publishers, relatively speaking, that we're talking about. I mean, Eagle Griffin is a big publisher, but it's still small by global standards. And we're still in a small industry, relatively speaking. And I know that publishers have a ton of problems and issues they have to deal with, but I'm still always on the side of talent. The talent is the people who are going to give you those games that are going to sell very well. Having said that, and as much as I have started to like Martin Wallace a lot for some of his designs, he does seem to be coming off as kind of a dickhead. I'd like to get more information about it. I'd love to interview the guy. I think it'd be fascinating. I want to interview Martin Wallace. I want to interview, some of these other sort of beleaguered designers. Thoughts on how many games do you own at this point? A couple hundred, not counting expansions. Thoughts on Taboo? Actually, wait. Let me clarify that point a bit. I own several hundred games. Many of them are in purgatory. They may or may not be staying in my collection permanently. But thoughts on Taboo. Okay, this is the game that is a surfing meeple game from the designer of Xayah. And when I said designer of Xayah, shit, I gotta check this out because I love Xayah. Xayah's an amazing game, and I was really looking forward to his follow-up. And then I'm like, okay, surfing game with meeples. It's an interesting theme. It's a unique theme. I always talk about how I want unique themes. Nothing on that Kickstarter page or that I've seen of the rules has me excited at all, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean that it's bad, but I can understand why it's struggling. It's sad that it's struggling. But I haven't looked at it in a few days. I'd like to see what it's at. Tavarua game. Yeah, here we go. How are they doing? 21,000 out of 30,000, and they have 57 hours to go. It doesn't look good. I would certainly play it and review it. I'd like to know if it's really great. I think the guy has the chops for design. Maybe this one was just a little too far out of everyone's wheelhouse. Everyone was expecting a bit, even if it wasn't space-related, a big epic game, and this wasn't quite it. But it's a unique theme. I have to give him credit for that. I hope that he succeeds. I hope that he gets it produced somehow, and I'll certainly try it and review it and have an open mind about it. I have some games that I bought when I first started collecting that are pretty bad. They darken my game room shelves. What do you do with all the garbage games that are too bad to sell or to trade? If they're really too bad to sell or trade, I'll still try. But sometimes I've just thrown away games. Yeah. I've definitely thrown away games before. That's a bad thing to do. I don't encourage that. But eventually, or I just throw them in. Well, I'll sell a whole lot of games and say, like, here's some good ones. But you have to take some bad ones, too. And that's a good way to guilt-free get rid of them, I think. What are 3 games you're super hyped on for 2016? Seafall, Conan. No, there's others. The new Super Dungeon Explorer that I backed. The new Arcadia Quest that I backed. Let's look at my hot list on Board Game Geek. So on Board Game Geek, on your profile, you can have a top 10 list and a hot top 10. My top 10 is like legit my top 10 games, although now it's out of date. I haven't updated it for this year's top 100. And my hot 10 I made into my top 10 most anticipated games. And so let's take a look here. My top 3 that I have right now are Seafall, Besieged, and Zombicide Black Plague. But Besieged and Zombicide Black Plague, well, Besieged should be shipping by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. Apocrypha would be number 4. That, I think, looks amazing. Consequential is vaporware. It's never going to happen. The Others, that's a good one. So, yeah, this guy's trying to do the Carlton. There's a lot of good games coming out. How long do your game nights run, and how many games do you normally get played in that time? Game nights run, let's see, the Wednesday night group goes from 7:30 to midnight-ish, so that's about 4.5 hours. Maybe we get 2 major games played, 1 really long game played. Sadly, that's happened the last couple of times. And then if we do smaller games, we can get like 4 played. Saturday night is when we get a lot of stuff played, because we do from like 5 or sometimes 4 p.m. till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., something like that. And then if there's cool stuff meetups, you get a ton of stuff played, because that's an all-day meetup. That's like 12 hours. I'll do random one-off nights that kind of float around from week to week where I'll get a few games played. So and then I have nights where I just play games solo by myself. So it changes, it varies, but usually Saturdays, whether it's the all-day meetups or my regular meetups, are where I get the bulk of my game playing done. And then Sundays by myself. Sad. What is the biggest game you have ever played as in size? Mine is Talisman with all the corner expansions in use. Mine would probably be, the first one that pops in my head, is Exalted Legacy of the Unconquered Sun, one of the 2 Exalted board games. Neither of them are very good. I got rid of them. But Exalted Legacy of the Unconquered Sun had amazing components. The board was huge. I played on one of like those standard 6 or 8 foot card tables that like the long rectangular card tables with the rounded edges, and it was hanging off of the edges of the table on the either side of it, on the long sides. And took up a ton of space. Plus, you have your player mat, which was huge, miniatures, tons of tokens and card decks. It's crazy amount of space. I mean, I remember Vassal walked by and was like, "What is this game?" Because it was immense. So it was like a testament to Ameritrash. Sup, Nick? When are we getting a release date for Adventure Time Adventures in the Land of Ooh? I'm super pumped for this. Oh, I forgot. Guys, we're almost at the end of the thing, and I forgot to do my games that I'm going to be reviewing soon. All right, so today, or later today, you should be seeing, let's get to my camera that I can actually see things in real time. The Black Edition of Star Wars Risk. You will have a quick, brief review just showing off the components of that. Flick 'em Up, Stallion Canyon. You'll be seeing that review. This is an empty box. And then hopefully by tomorrow night, I still need to play them some more. You're gonna see reviews for Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game, and Adventure Time in the Lands of Ooze, since you brought it up, and maybe Legends of Andor, the new edition, which I bought the new one that Cosmos re-released worldwide. Because I'm like, well, they probably improved the component quality or something. And no, it's exactly the same as the Fantasy Flight release. So if you have the Fantasy Flight version, you're fine. The good news is they also put out an expansion. I don't think I'm going to get the expansion review this week, or this weekend, or maybe not even this week. But this, probably, between now and Wednesday. Because I actually already played this several times with my old copy of the game, and I never got around to reviewing it. But I'm like, oh, alright, I guess now I'll finally review it. After replaying it and being like, oh, this game is really hard. That's what it reminded me. But if you know that I already own it, you probably already know that I like the game, so that's a bit anticlimactic. The other ones, though, mystery. Well, okay, you know I like Star Wars Risk, too. And you know I like Click 'em Up. Okay, Warhammer Quest and Adventure Time are going to be the mystery reviews. Who knows what Nick thinks? How do you prefer to play Arcadia Quest, campaign mode or one-time scenarios? I would love to do the campaign mode. I never have time. We did a little bit of that campaign stuff in the early days when I first got the game, leading up to my review, and that seems to have been abandoned because I keep playing it with new people. So every time it gets busted out, we just pick a random scenario and play it. So I guess that's how I prefer to play it, but just by circumstance. Any thoughts on the chibi sci-fi western game Rail Riders coming out from Soda Pop Minis? I have no idea what that is. This goes to show that I am always a little bit behind on news for the most part. Rail Riders? A quick Google search doesn't even bring it up. So... I'll look it up later, but I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by the theme. Did you see the black box from AEG this year? No, I was very underwhelmed by their previous black boxes. Was this one any better? I will get a review of Warhammer Quest. I will do you one better, but I don't want to talk about it right now. Sleeving also helps when games go out of print. Yes, that's true. I should sleeve my copy of Queen's Gambit at some point and shore up the box. What is the best game with a retro sci-fi theme? Ugh. I'm not into that very much. I don't like retro sci-fi themes, but can I say Fallout? How do you prefer... did you just ask that question again? Some of these I've already answered. Why are you so against shenanigans? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Joe. If I hear one more person say the word shenanigans, I'm going to personally pistol whip them. I hope somebody got that joke. If you could design a new theme for Love Letter, what would it be? Oh, come on. Does it not have enough already? But okay, I'll bite. I'll bite, Elizabeth. Seriously, it's been done. One Punch Man. I love the Adventure Time theme. For some reason, they just made it look good. I love the artwork. I love the whole thing with Finn and Jake, where if someone plays Finn and they have Jake in their hand, you've combined them and you win. That type of thing. So I think Adventure Time is where I'm sitting at with that. But Batman's good too. What are your thoughts on the Arcadia Quest Beyond the Grave expansion? I have it. I just haven't gotten to it. That's why I never reviewed it. What are your most anticipated games of 2016? I just kind of went through them. Check out my hot list on Board Game Geek, username the Kill Shirt. But ignore the top 10 because that's going to be changing soon. Last week you said you weren't qualified to make a top 10 couples games list, so what are your top 10 solo games? I am going to do that. The reason I haven't is because there's been a couple of games I want to play solo I haven't gotten to yet, and there's also a new edition of Dawn of the Zeds coming out I really want to try solo, so I've been waiting. I'm procrastinating on that, but I would hope I'd have it early next year. If I was to buy a Dominion expansion, which my personal experience is that Adventures is awesome, but I've also heard very good things about Seaside and Prosperity, I think. Intrigue, but Intrigue is actually a standalone expansion that is above the base game on Board Game Geek's top 100, so I'd probably go with that. I get a lot of Warhammer Quest Adventure card game questions, but these are people who didn't see me hold up the box. They asked these questions before that. Hi from India, Nick. Well, hello. I always like to see that we have international fans. Any cons on Blood Rage? Yes, it can take a long time with 4 or 5 players, and because the game is better at more players, that is something you're going to run into a lot. I think 4 players is ideal for that game, but 3 also works. So I think if you really are worried about time, cut it down to 3, but don't play it with 2. It's only mildly interesting. I tried it one time with 2 players, so I'm like, we should get more people. So that would be another con. 2 players doesn't work all that well. In my experience, I'm sure people will disagree with me, but those people are probably forced to play with 2 players more often. I think it's got a learning curve. Not that it's a complicated game to learn, but that someone who is experienced with the game will crush someone who isn't, because they are more attuned to the flow of the game, what cards are going to work best, what the biggest point gatherers are. That would be a con, but I still think the game is amazing. There's no huge cons to it. Why do you think there are... I assume what you mean is, why do you think there aren't any board game designers from India? Well, it's a cultural thing. I think that perhaps in your culture, maybe board games aren't as big of a thing. I don't know that that's true. If I'm wrong about that, then please let me know. If board games are a huge thing in India and there aren't a lot of designers coming from there, I don't know what the reason is. Maybe because I always think that sometimes... people aren't felt welcome enough in the board gaming community, and perhaps if we opened our arms more to people from other cultures to make games, produce games, to play games even, that things would be a little bit better. But I see that happening. I mean, we have a lot of Asian designers, games from designers and publishers from Japan, Korea, Taiwan are really, really coming up big in the last couple of years, especially from Japan. And you see, I mean, we have Germany was the hotbed of all of these games, and that spread to America. So then America started to do it, and there's a lot of UK designers and publishers, Australian. These things are happening. I think it's just taking some time, and at this point, I'm not sure that it's because one culture is being underserviced or is just like an outlier. I think that board gaming as a whole, modern hobby, hardcore board gaming, is still on the rise. As good as it is for all of us that are in the industry already, it's still spreading very slowly, and it's not like a huge, huge, mega popular thing quite yet. As that starts and keeps happening, it's like a rising tide floats all boats type thing. I think you'll see more designers from more countries start getting involved. So I don't think we're at an emergency situation of that quite yet, but it's a good question. Nick, mayo, ketchup, or hot sauce? First off, let's mayo. Mayo is so gross. I cannot think of a more gross condiment. And my boss loves it. I don't understand it. But I hate mayo, so that's completely out. I'm not into hot sauce. I kind of get why people are into it, but it's just not for me. Ketchup is good, but even I think I probably put ketchup on too many things. So I've definitely backed off on that a bit. Who will win the presidential election? I still think it's going to be Hillary. I wish it was Bernie if I could really wave a magic wand, but I'm fine with it being Hillary too if that's my other option. And I just think that even from objectively speaking, taking my own personal politics aside, which I don't like to do, of course, but even if you looked at it objectively, the right has gone too far to the right. And I think that there are too many people who are alienated by the BS that they're hearing from that side, to where even if a slightly more moderate candidate comes out of the Republican field, like Cruz or like Rubio, and by the way, they're not moderates, but they just look slightly less insane than Carson and Trump. But even if one of them were to get into the nomination, the slightly less insane people, they're still far too right, and there's still been too much damage done to the reputation of the Republican Party. At least that's what I hope. Otherwise, there's no hope for humanity if people as a whole are buying into this. Boxers, briefs, or free balling? Boxers. Briefs were... I wore briefs up until my adult years. How do you feel about Talisman by Fantasy Flight? Do not like it. Relic. If I had to pick one of those games, it would be Relic. And I would like to try Relic again because I think it improved some aspects of Talisman, but knowing what I know about Talisman, never. Do you think Runebound 3rd Edition is the right buy for my gaming group since we love Arcadia Quest, Descent, and Imperial Assault? They are so different. They are so different. I know that they have fantasy themes, Imperial Assault doesn't, but Descent and Imperial Assault are one versus all, RPG in a box type games that give you very similar feelings to like Dungeons and Dragons, at least the combat scenarios of Dungeons and Dragons. Arcadia Quest is competitive MOBA, like battle arena type combat that can be done in a campaign, but it feels very different again than the campaign of like Descent. And Runebound is just a bunch of characters running around a map. It feels like you're also almost playing it solo, having like flip over a card, see what happens, chuck some tokens. Even the combat system is completely different. So while thematically these games have some things in common, they're very different. So you're asking me if I think it's right buy for your gaming group? I don't think it's a big leap because you're obviously committed to longer form games, fantasy games, and games about like equipping characters and things like that and fighting monsters. But still, go into it with the expectation that you might like it a lot. You might not because it is so different from those games. We are making Emma Watson happen. I am on board. Tell me what you need from me. Oh, be a better person? Sorry, can't make it happen. Where are you watching One Piece? I am not right now. I wish that I was. If I ever have infinite time, I'll watch the entire thing. You're also a jelly donut. Everyone is behaving. We're not needed. I still say you should block someone and ban someone, even if they're behaving, just to set an example for the rest of the group. Just root that shit out right now. We're way over time, but I don't care. I'm having fun. I just saw someone applied for a marketing director position at FFG. Maybe someone got fired. Interesting. But understand that it doesn't necessarily be someone. Sometimes people just leave a position. They get a better position. Something happens in life. It's not. There's not always a story there, but sometimes there is. I'm considering sleeving some Ticket to Ride cards, but I'm wondering if that will make shuffling too slippery. What do you think? I think I don't play Ticket to Ride enough to know if that's going to be a bad thing for that game. Depends on what kind of card sleeves. Try to get the opaque sleeves and you'll be fine. The Ultra Pros or something with like the matte finish backs. Seeing as you are one of the only reviewers who has it or is singing its praises, a small update on how your band of survivors are doing in Kingdom Death, thriving, little sediment, or struggling. So, after I did the review, I kept playing the game solo without my group, and my settlement died horribly by like the 8th Lantern year, and I've been struggling to get it to the table again. It's a very difficult game, but the interesting thing is that every time I play it, I learn more about what advancements I should be taking to survive, and although the thing is, I'm still exploring the game, so I still want to try out new advancements and innovations, and I still want to try out new things and find new scenarios and new events that happen, and try different wacky things with that, so it's been interesting. I'm this one of those games where I'm like, I love it so much, and I want to plumb the depths of it, and I don't care if I die, and I don't care if I do poorly in it. I just want to explore every nook and cranny of it. Such a good game. Such a good boy. I'm sorry. Oh man, one of the cards from Cards Against Humanity. It was so we always end our games of Cards Against Humanity with a haiku, right? There is a card that says make a haiku, and we just say, okay, we're done playing, everyone make a haiku, and then we will do the simultaneous pointing to see who has the favorite. So there's no judge. The cards are. And everyone voted for mine. Mine ended up winning the haiku, and mine was like, let me see if I remember. It was John. So the way the haiku works is you play 3 cards. And it doesn't have to be 5, 7, 5, but if you do, it's funny, but it's just play 3 cards and see if they make any kind of sense. So my haiku was Jean-Claude Van Damme, taking out Santa with a surface-to-air missile, treasures beyond your wildest dreams. And I won, okay? It's great, okay, so I liked mine. But the one that I voted for, because you can't vote for yourself, and I wouldn't have anyways, was Alex, the music teacher, who was like, let me see if I get this right. It was a possible Muslim suckling at the teat. Such a good boy. I don't know. I laughed so hard. I had to vote for his. He did some other ones. Oh man, I did one that was so. I can't even say it, but oh man, his responses were very funny in that game. He should have won the whole thing. We ended up tying as a whole, but I was like, I'm giving you the win. Seeing as you are one of the only... you already asked that, sorry. Hello, what do you think about Bruges, the board game? I think it's an awesome game, one of his best. I would donate, give away shit games I don't want anymore. Throw away? Never. But the problem is, you're giving people bad games. Can you do that in good conscience? I have a hard time with that. I would not give people Exploding Kittens. If people determine that they love the game enough to spend money on it, that's one thing. But to just say, hey, I think you'll like this game. Oh, great. I think I'm cursing them. I'm like giving them the haunted sword or something. With the Arcadia Quest and Super Dungeon Explorer Kickstarters recently, would you prefer something to add that would make A, Arcadia Co-op, or B, Super Dungeon Explorer? Oh, do you mean like make it explorative? Well, I think that's happening, right? Super Dungeon Legends is supposed to be like a campaign-style Descent type thing you can add to Super Dungeon Explorer. Arcadia Quest, it kind of works because it's not co-op. It's just not that type of thing. I think I like it for what it is. When will your top 100 be finished? Hopefully by next Sunday. Will there be any surprise entries? I think so. I think you'll be surprised by some things. But I don't know what you guys constitute as a surprise. Any tips for running smaller gaming groups of 6 to 7 people and how to get 4-player games on the table? If you have 6 to 7 people, you should always be playing 2 games unless you're purposely trying to get together for like a resistance style game, party game. How to get 4-player games on the table? I mean, if you have 6 people, that's tough. You want to do like 3 and 3. But, you know, sometimes people want to break off to do a 2-player game, and then there you go, the window's open. If it's 7 people, easy, just have a 4-player group and a 3-player group. I mean, people are usually willing to work with you on that if you really want to get a game to the table. You might have been asked this before, but I never really saw the answer or missed it. What is that game you have with the tongue? Oh, really? You don't think I've been asked that question? Let me tell you something, Seifel, Mokhtar, you. I have been asked that question thousands of times. I'm sorry. I'm giving you a hard time. I'm not really upset about it. But it's true. That's my most asked question on the channel. And I have really answered it dozens and dozens of times. And other people have answered for me because they're sick of seeing people ask about it. But that is the Boo Booty box of Super Dungeon Explorer. It is like the box that you could get with all of the extra stuff for the campaign. Although, in their fashion, you are... it's not exclusive. So you can buy it from their website either now or if it's out of print, you might be able to whenever it comes back in print. But that's what that is. There's going to be another thing like that with the new Kickstarter as well. Are there any good sci-fi Descent-like games that you would recommend? Yes, Level 7 Omega Protocol is a very, very good game. Not quite as deep and rich as Descent, but gives me some of that feel. And also there's Imperial Assault, Star Wars, which is Descent but Star Wars. Are you going to Dice Tower Con in 2016? I am not. So jealous of Nick's t-shirt and shorts. Well, I'm indoors too, so even if it was cold outside, I'd probably still be in t-shirt and shorts with the heat on. Have you played Targi? What do you think of it? I have not, but I'm interested in it. It looks pretty good. But 2-player games are hard for me to get to the table because I'm usually either in a group or by myself. Hi from Uruguay, Malaysia, awesome. Mayo rules, dude. Well, now I'm gonna have to block you. See, Nathaniel, you're the one. I mean, that's a case where you should be blocking someone. They say they like Mayo. What are you doing? You're both asleep at the wheel. I'm kidding. Don't block him. Is Back to the Future game going to work? Time travel games are a minefield. I think it's not going to work. I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised and wrong about that. But IDW is very, very hit and miss with me right now. Usually miss. They are not a very good game company so far. And let me take a look here at who the designer is. I'm afraid what I'm going to find out. It is Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle. I think Matt Riddle's done some good stuff, but I think he's also done at least one game I didn't like. If it was Kevin Wilson, I'd say beware, beware, beware. Because Kevin Wilson loves to make thematic games that don't actually have a lot of fun in the box. What do you think about Waste Nights? I'll let you know in a couple of weeks. My copy is on its way to me from my amazing sponsor, Board Game Bliss. Can I ban the other moderator? Can you? I'd like to find out, actually. Guys, I want to buy a new board game. Check out Arcadia Quest or Super Dungeon Explorer. They're very different games. You need to do your homework and watch a lot of reviews to determine which one is for you. Be aware that Super Dungeon Explorer is a one versus all game. The other players are cooperating fully. Arcadia Quest is a purely competitive game. That right there may determine whether or not you want one of those games. Sayful, I wasn't really upset about that. I think it's funny that people ask about that so much, including, by the way, Tim, who's the guy who's responsible for Double Fine Productions? Tim Schafer, I think, is him. But yeah, Tim Schafer, the famous video game designer, actually tweeted, like, what is that game on your shelf? I'm like, well, now we finally arrived. That is the apex of this question being asked. Okay, final question. I have to really end it here, guys. We've gone over an hour and a half. Blood Rage versus Chaos in the Old World. I have both as well. Do you think they are too similar? No. No. They give I understand that there's area control and things being destroyed. Chaos in the Old World feels very different to me. It feels more methodical. It's more complicated. They're very different. I think that Blood Rage works better as a lighter, more visceral game, but Chaos in the Old World is amazing as a more strategic area control experience. So, yeah, I would have. Well, I'm not saying that I like one better than the other, but I do think that they both have a place, for me at least. Maybe other people feel differently. Okay, fine. Mariano is definitely asking the right kind of question. I'll ask one more question. What are your thoughts on an overproduced game like Cthulhu Wars compared with a similar gameplay experience like Chaos in the Old World? I think the Chaos in the Old World is not only similar, it's better. And I don't think that high-quality miniatures trump anything if the gameplay is not as good. And I feel that I don't know. I understand that people want to paint minis, and that's the reason a lot of people will back games as opposed to people like me who just wanted the gameplay experience. And if that's the case, then yeah, go for Cthulhu Wars. But I think that Chaos in the Old World is the better gaming experience, and I think that games like Chaos in the Old World put so much effort into their components and miniatures, or I'm sorry, games like Cthulhu Wars, did I say that? Put so much effort into their miniatures and components, and they skimp on the gameplay by just borrowing wholesale elements from other games like Chaos in the Old World. Boom! As if I haven't badmouthed that game enough, but a game that I actually liked, but I'm sick of the designers and publishers and fans. In any case, we're going to end it here. Did I ever play... I can't stop answering questions. Did you ever play any of the fighting fantasy game books? If yes, which would you recommend? No, but I've heard about them. They seem interesting to me. Hopefully they redo them someday. But we'll end it there. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it. At the end of it all, we had 44 people watching. We were probably up to 50 or something at some point, I assume, right? But I really love my Q&As. I love talking to all of you, and I hope that you guys have a lot of fun doing it, and I hope that this is great content for you. There will be quite a few reviews and top 10 lists as part of my top 100 coming out in the next few days, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I have quite a lot of work to do, so I will sign off here. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic holiday weekend. I know that mine has not been nearly long enough. Take care.